The body of a doctor who went missing during Monday night's downpour has been found by a search party of local fishermen. The fishermen found the body of Dr. Aya Hayfron downstream in the Kweshi Lagoon at Lahia in Accra after she was swept away by floodwaters at a bridge on the Teshi Bush Road. The search for Dr. Hayfron appeared to have been intensified after the husband's harrowing plea on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM Wednesday morning. Bernard Kofi Opong described watching his wife drift away Monday night as she struggled to get out of her car.
Really, the whole incident just happened so fast, right in front of me. She was in a car with some people. The people she was in a car with were rescued. She was in the car, and then the car slided over a bridge into a big ditch. I ran after the car to try and save her or whatever. I don't know what I was doing then. But since that time, let's say from, I think it should be around 10:30 or maybe 11 p.m. Monday evening, I haven't seen her. The last time I saw her was she struggling or trying to get out of the car that was stuck on a bridge on the Teshi Demo Road. That was the last time I saw her from about 150 meters away, struggling in the car to get out. That was the last time I saw her, Monday around that time. We have a son, he's 15 months. So I was taking care of him, and then I fell asleep with him. Around 9 a.m., my eyes opened. That's when I heard the rain falling. So I tried calling her to tell her not to come home at all. Her parents live at Adabaka, so I was going to tell her to just go there, but she didn't answer. So we were still waiting, but I fell asleep. I'm not sure what time I did. And then I heard my phone ringing around 10. And that was her calling then. So when I picked up, she was telling me she was almost home. But there's a bridge, anyone that knows Teshi Demo Road, there's a bridge that you always have to drive over before you get to her house. She told me she was packed behind the bridge. The bridge was flooded. So I said, okay, then fine. She should just remain there. I'll get out of the house and then go meet her. Our son was not even asleep. I just locked him up in the room. He was crying, but I just disregarded him. So I went out to try and go meet her. As soon as I walked out of my gate, she called me the second time to tell me, oh, a taxi just drove over the bridge, so she thinks she can drive over. At that time, I didn't know how severe really the flood was. So I said, okay, then fine, then I'll meet her. So I left home. Walking there, that's when I noticed how severe the flood was. So as I was walking, I got to a part that was about 150 meters away from the bridge. At that time, the water was up to my belly. But she had already driven and got stuck on the bridge. Before she drove off, when I was on the phone with her earlier, some two people tapped on her window to give them a lift to down the street. So she just obliged because it was raining and asked them to sit at the back. So they were all trapped in the car on the bridge, and I was observing this from about 150 meters away. I saw a group of guys trying to rescue them. So they were rescuing the people from the boot. I saw a man go out through the boot, and then I saw another lady go out through the boot. So I saw my wife also trying to go out through the boot. At that moment, that was when the car started sliding into the big ditch. There's a very big ditch. So at that time, I saw the last woman jump out of the car, but the car moved onto the ditch and was floating on top of the ditch. So I just ran through the water. At some point, I was completely immersed in the water. I was running in the water, my head and everything under the water. I don't know how I survived up to this point. But I ran after the car for about 450 or maybe 500 meters. But I was blocked and I couldn't follow because there was a building I couldn't go around. So I had to return, ran all the way around back to where she was parked earlier before she moved, only to meet the guys that were rescued. They were all shocked, so no one could really tell me anything. So I walked to the police station on the Teshi Rasta Road to make a report. Then they dispatched a military rescue team. I'm not sure what their name is. They came over, about 15 strong soldiers, trying to do something. But honestly, for about 2 or 3 hours, they were just going back and forth without doing anything.
The National Disaster Management Organization mobilized equipment to the area shortly after Bernard Opong had granted the interview, but it was a local fisherman who found the body. Joy News' Joseph Akable was at the scene during the search and has come through with this report.
The joint military and police team was at the scene at about 9 a.m. on Tuesday. They commenced the search at the bridge where the doctor's car had veered off into the stream. Her husband could simply not keep calm as the search continued. The Director General of NADMO, who arrived shortly after the scene, was briefed by the officers.
Because the force from this place,
an eyewitness narrated his account to pressmen.
Yesterday at about 2200 hours, the rain started falling, and I got out to move my car from that particular place because I stay around there. But while I was moving, I discovered that the lady was on the other side. The lady who had the accident was on the other side. And I gave her a little signal to hold on because the capacity in which the water was coming was so much. But while I parked my car, before I came back, I discovered that she made an attempt to go into the water. As the time I came back, the car was already locked in the middle of the bridge. We made every attempt to make sure that we rescue them, but it was quite unfortunate. We were able to get out just 2 people out.
So all 3 people were in the car?
Yes, 3 people were in the car. 2 people she picked from the roadside to help them cross to the other side. And it was so unfortunate that she that was driving, we couldn't save her. As at the time we were about to reach out to her, that was when the water took the car into the gutter, and we made every possible best to see if we could hear her voice. We went round, went back, came this far, but we didn't see her or see her body.
I'm standing some few meters away from the mangled vehicle that you can see. The vehicle, we understand, was moved by the water from miles ahead. This particular stream, we are told, connects to the lagoon and eventually gets over into the sea. We met quite a number of NADMO officials here who were trying to look around using sticks and other things to check whether anyone can be found within the water, but that has not been successful so far. The Director General of NADMO, who arrived at the scene shortly after the search commenced, was briefed by the officers. He told pressmen NADMO was determined to find the missing doctor.
As we stand here, you can see we've seen the car, but we can't see the lady. I can't say it's a body now because we don't know what has happened. But so we are doing a major search here to see what can be done. We are here with the police, the military, the 48 Engineers Regiment to see what we can do if God will give us the woman or whatever.
A towing vehicle was shortly brought to the scene to get the car out of the stream. A team of fishermen later found the body under a heap of refuse. The body was quickly moved to the morgue by the family.
All right, so I am going to show you some Google images of the area where the late Dr. Aya Hayfron, actually the vehicle drifted off into the lagoon, and then eventually where her body was retrieved. So if you can see on your screens now, it actually started, that's where you see the blue line is the Teshi Rasta Road as we have it. And so we have the incident happening somewhere around here. That's where the vehicle which had Dr. Aya Hayfron and the 2 other occupants, that was where there's a bridge close by, or at this spot, that's where they were drifting off, and they drifted off. The lagoon or the stream actually goes all the way, flows all the way through and meanders, and this is where the spot where they eventually found the body of Dr. Aya Hayfron on Wednesday morning. We're joined on the line right now by the Greater Accra Regional NADMO Director Archibald Kobina to get to give us an update on the deaths so far. Thank you for making time to speak with us one more time, Mr. Kobina. Now, yesterday you had given us some update as to the number of deaths. This evening, we're hearing that as many as 8 deaths have been reported. Can you confirm that for us?
Yes, I can confirm 8. I think what we said yesterday, this morning, my Director General gave an update about 6, and then we found the body of our doctor, and then this evening we found a small girl of about 3 years old around the Christian Village, Parakou area. In fact, we're still searching for a year-old boy who we're hoping that we should be able So far, 8 confirmed, yes.
All right. Now, you also talked about a number of people missing. Has there been any? Have you found any luck in trying to see these people?
I think that this morning through some part of the afternoon, because we've been so consumed with trying to find the bodies of those that we need. I didn't get feedback from those missing, whether they found them. I can confirm that to you a little tomorrow morning.
All right. Now that we have you on the phone lines, I'd like you to speak to this issue of when you're driving in times like these, when the flood, when you come across flooded roads, what advice would you typically give people?
The best thing to do is to find a safe place and park. Driving through the rain is very dangerous. I think that whatever time, be it 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, perhaps the whole day, or even 2 days, if you have to be somewhere, and wait for the rains to be over, I think that we cannot quantify, put whatever to life. Life is so important and so valuable. So we would advise everybody that if you're driving and it's raining, and sometimes, yes, you may have been passing that road, you may have been passing on that bridge, but at that particular point, you don't know whether the bridge has become weak. For example, this evening where we found the body of the 3-year-old girl. If you see that bridge, we've been passing on that bridge, the Christian Village Parakou Road. But if you see how it's caved in, some parts of it collapsed. It's too serious. And so we would plead with the general public that if you're driving and you see that it's raining and the whole place is flooded, it will be better you just park at a very safe place and be in your car. If you see that the water is getting into the car and it's coming towards you, if you need to go back, then you need to do so. If it's coming from behind you and you need to find a place right in front of you, you need to do so, or try and take shelter close by. I think that Ghanaians are very warm people, and once you enter a place and see that it's raining, you say you want to just be there for a time. I'm sure that people would be accommodating to take you in until the rains are over.
All right. Thank you very much, Archibald Kobna, who's the Greater Accra Regional Coordinator of the National Disaster Management Organization. Now, moving on, the Sanitation Ministry is warning against the disposal of waste into drains. NADMO records shows about 8 people, as we're hearing now, as a result of Monday night's downpour and subsequent flooding, which some are blaming on choked drains. Chief Director at the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, Joseph Obing Poku, says the ministry alone cannot deal with the country's sanitation issues. He is therefore calling on citizens, especially those who are often affected by floods, to change their attitude and avoid calamity during rainy seasons. Elfua Evans-Chinri reports.
Speaking during the launch of a set of basic sanitation guidelines targeting the poor and vulnerable in Ghana, Mr. Joseph Obing Poku mentioned that attitudinal change is the answer to poor sanitation in the country. He says the country will not experience any more flooding fatalities if we all learn to keep our environment clean.
People should also monitor those who are just dumping waste anyhow, indiscriminately. Because if you are in the community and people are dumping waste indiscriminately and you are not reporting, the ministry alone cannot ensure that. So we are urging everybody that we should also help in monitoring those who are dumping refuse anyhow, so that we can also make our city clean and we avoid the issue of the effect of the rains and then the other challenges.
The Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is rolling out a one house, one toilet program as a way of increasing household latrine ownership and usage with the aim of ultimately ending open defecation. 6,000 homes have benefited from the one house, one toilet project in the Greater Accra region. Mr. Obeng Poku, speaking on behalf of the Sanitation Minister Joseph Ada, mentioned that government has secured additional financing of $45 million from the World Bank under the Sustainable Rural Water and Sanitation Project to support the poor and vulnerable in household latrine ownership and usage.
Under the Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Sanitation and Water Project, which was supported by the World Bank, I mean, when the present administration took over, there was a need to double up so that we can provide the households with the needed toilet facilities. So a different strategy was adopted so that we quicken the pace. So we started at the time they had done just about 400. But now we've gone beyond 5,000. So we are hoping that the numbers that we promised giving with respect to the project will be able to achieve that target.
The guidelines will serve as a working document and further provide direction and guidance for all stakeholders in the sanitation sector.
In another development, government says it has committed 300 million cedis to a flood prevention program, which will see the construction of a major drainage system in the capital. Deputy Minister for Works and Housing Eugene Boakye Antwi told Raymond Aqua on Upfront the drainage system is expected to contain high volumes of water during heavy downpours. He insists the number of casualties would have been high again this year if government had not taken steps to prevent flooding in Accra.
Government has taken serious steps to address permanently the flooding situation in Accra. So doesn't matter whether we started 6 months ago, 3 months ago, at least we are in June. Today is 28th of June. This time 2 years ago, 3 years ago, properties have been lost, lives have been lost. But this time we're only talking about an unfortunate one life lost. So you can see that if steps had not been taken, what befell this country on the 3rd of June 2015 would have befallen us by now, as we speak. The ministry has identified all these projects along the breadth and the length and breadth of Ghana. But we are waiting for the ministry to issue us with a commencement certificate. And once we receive that, which I believe will come shortly, but the commencement has been released to us. So that's why they are out there working. So once we get that, we have to then proceed to PPA based on the threshold of these various contracts. The PPA at that stage, because of the emergency nature of the rains and what have you, we may decide to go apply for sole sourcing so that the contractors can then move to site as opposed to going through the normal PPA process. So all these things are being done. So when I say excavation works haven't started, they haven't started but I can tell you that we have the list of all the areas that we are going to excavate, all the areas we are going to construct. We have all that. But the monies that must be allocated to the commencement certificate from finance has not been issued yet. And we are hoping and praying because it's all down to money. But that is why government took steps to just do the silting and some major drains so that Accra does not, flood, to prepare us for these big monies coming so that we can move into the country and construct all the major drains across the country. And this preparatory work has been done and a copy can be made available to you.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime, but still ahead in the bulletin, one of two persons being held for the murder of the late J.B. Danquah Adut, a member of parliament for the Ebuakwa North constituency, is threatening to mention the names of persons in the governing New Patriotic Party he says contracted him to commit the crime. We will be back in a bit. Stay tuned. One of the two accused persons in the JB Danquah Edu murder case, Daniel Esiedu, has threatened to mention names of people he alleges contracted him to commit the crime. Daniel Esiedu, who gave a voluntary confession to the court, said he was contracted by some persons within the new governing New Patriotic Party to murder the former MP for the Buakwa North constituency. In his confession, the accused also said after his arrest, the alleged persons who contracted him approached him to accuse certain persons within the NDC of hiring him. Daniel Esiedu further added that the promise by these persons to get him freed when the NPP comes to power has not been fulfilled, hence his decision to confess. The accused and one other person, Vincent Bosso, have been charged with murder and abetment. The late JB Danquah was stabbed to death on February 9, 2016 at a Shiashi residence in Accra. Daniel Esiedu, who was a prime suspect, was arrested 2 days after the incident, with his accomplice picked several weeks later. Now, what does this confession mean for the eventual trial of the two? I'm joined via Skype by lawyer Samson Ladi Ayenini. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayenini. Now, in this confession by Daniel Esiedu, is this confession by Daniel Esiedu admissible in court, or how will the court treat it?
This trial is a murder trial. Murder trials are tried on indictment. What it means is that they are presently at a stage where the bail of indictment will have to be prepared, and then it will be forwarded to the High Court. It is the High Court that the murder trial will take place, not at the district court. It is the High Court, when the trial is going on, that he will be made to take an oath, and then upon the oath give his testimony. It is that point where he takes the oath and then he gives the testimony, that the testimony he gives will be used in the trial and for the purposes of the judgment. Since the matter has not yet moved to the High Court, it means the trial has not started. So anything he's saying in the district court, he's not actually required to say anything. So anything he's saying is by virtue of he wanting to speak out, and it does not count. It may only count to give the prosecution clues as to what to do to make their case watertight, and to ensure that all persons who may be connected to the said murder are brought before the court to stand trial. So if the prosecution takes the view that what he said in court today, which does not count to the trial because the trial has not started, if they take a view that it is important, that it is critical, then it is the job of the prosecution to follow the lead. Otherwise, everything he's saying at this point is useless, really.
All right. Essentially, the point he's made, the confession he's made, is doesn't count. Would you expect the prosecution to go further and follow the lead?
Well, you know, the prosecution has the discretion to determine, number one, who to put on trial and how to prosecute their case. You see, even if he stood trial alone and he said, as he has said, that I did the murder, but I was contracted to do it, it does not absolve him of the offense, of the guilt. He will still be found guilty and, you know, sent to prison. Whether some other people are indeed involved and they may have as it were, contracted him, as he says, to do what he did. Whether those people are brought to court or not, he will still be found guilty of murder on the basis of that confession and be sent to prison. But it is the job of the prosecution to decide that, having heard that some other people may have been involved, we are interested in bringing those people to trial.
Right.
But it does not change the fact that he will be found guilty and made to suffer for it.
All right. Now, Samson, whilst we have you on the line, I want to find out from you, there's this issue that has to do with how a journalist or journalists are supposed to conduct themselves in a court. Now, a magistrate at a district court who is presiding over the case involving the chief executive of Obeng Hospital, Dr. Dominic Obeng Ando, Tuesday ordered the seizure of mobile phones belonging to some journalists who were in court to cover the trial. The magistrate, Efuasaki, before the beginning of the hearing, ordered her court warrant officer to seize the phones. She explained that the seizure was to prevent the journalists from recording court proceedings. The recent action follows a similar one during the last hearing of the case, where she instructed journalists to report to the registrar of her court to seek clearance before accessing the court. Now, something, what is a journalist supposed to do when they present themselves in a court?
The basic rules are that you are in contempt of court, whether you are a journalist or not a journalist, and you go to court and you record the proceedings. You are not allowed to record the proceedings. What the court does, and the protocol, is that there is an announcement, or you could even find notices on the walls of the court or in the courtroom asking everybody to put their phones off or put them on silence. It is wrong to require that people will surrender their phones before they enter for the trial. The point is that the courts are open to the public. The Constitution is very clear that the administration of justice may be done also with the assistance of members of the public. It is the reason that the murder trial going on now, you will have jurors, persons from the Ghanaian society asked to come and sit and assess the judge to deal with the case. It is the reason you have assessors, persons within the Ghanaian community who will be asked to come to court and assist a judge to deal with the case. The courts are open to the public, except on matters that the judge decides that they are, because they concern families, because they concern children, like divorce matters, they will be heard in chambers. Otherwise, the courts are a public place.
Right.
Journalists don't have to record, because whatever happens in the court is supposed to be recorded, and when you need it, you simply request for it, and you'll be giving the recording of the court. The court, we say, is a court of record. So everything that happens in court is documented, and you can always ask for it, and you'll be giving a copy.
All right. Thank you very much, Samson Ladi Ayeni. He's a legal practitioner who's giving us some enlightenment as far as the legal matters we're considering are concerned. We're taking a break here to bring you business news here on Joy News Prime. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening to you. Time now for business. The private sector needs to reposition business plans to complement the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda of government. That's according to the president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Nana P.J. Dankawoso I, as part of the launch of the second edition of the Chamber Business Awards 2017. Charles Aite has more in this report.
The objective of the awards is to, among others, acknowledge and celebrate key businesses and personalities who have contributed meaningfully to business practice in Ghana, as well as to inspire and promote the entrepreneurial spirit in the Ghanaian by highlighting the success stories of outstanding award winners. In an address, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Nana Appiagyei Dankawoso I, says the private sector must take advantage of the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda to expand their businesses and also deepen trade ties with government.
We as private sector operators need to find innovative ways to remain competitive. Award schemes thus become important for businesses to become competitive as they gain recognition for their exceptional achievements and innovative services.
On his part, Deputy Trade Minister Robert Ahum-Kalensi assured business executives and captains of industries of government's move to create a business-friendly environment for the private sector to thrive. He believes an awards night like the Chamber Awards will be a booster for the private sector.
Well, we are on a journey, and in that journey, you must make sure you celebrate your little successes on that process. Otherwise, your ability to even enthuse yourself to move on falls. Let me just state the obvious, but it's clear. We support fully both the program and the theme of your second 2017 awards.
But even ahead of the launch of the Chamber Business Awards in November, there is a clarion call on government to arrest the fall of the cedi. The Chamber believes that the trend of the cedi depreciating against the major currencies is a very dark moment for private sector. They believe it's either now or never in terms of the impact it could have on businesses. I'm Charles Aite reporting for Joy Business.
President of the African Center for Economic Transformation, ACET, Dr. K.Y. Amoako, is lamenting lack of government's resolve to mobilize taxes from international firms investing in African countries, including Ghana. He said many African countries have granted too many tax exemptions to foreign companies at the expense of their weaker economies. This, according to Dr. Amoako, poses a challenge for domestic revenue mobilization. Dr. Amoako made the revelation in an interview with Joy Business after addressing the opening session of the ongoing 2018 Africa Transformation Forum here in Accra.
The forum for 2018 is expected to build on progress after the Kigali conference and generate increased momentum for sustainable and inclusive growth. ACET has championed the transformation agenda for the past 10 years through a series of conferences and dialogues with the policymakers and private sector players. According to the president of ACET, Dr. K.Y. Amoako, many countries, including Ghana, have given too many tax exemptions to foreign companies. This, coupled with the inability to collect property tax, have undermined the economy, he says.
How can we mobilize our own resources, our own savings to finance our development here?
So any strategy?
Well, for example, the whole question of there are too many tax exemptions for most African countries. So they give foreigners and other businesses. We need to tighten that up. I think there's a lot more we can do in property tax rates. People have houses, estates, they don't pay any taxes. So raising taxes is important, but you do it in such a way that it can promote growth.
Wednesday's session witnessed a discussion on light manufacturing industries. Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries, Setchuma Kwabwa, spoke with Joy Business on the expectations from the entire forum.
In Africa, and in particular Ghana, we don't just need growth, we need transformation. Growth is just seeing numbers increased and all that, but transformation means that you're actually changing the structures of your economy so that certain sectors become more prominent and more important, sectors that can create jobs and so on and so forth. And for a conference of this nature, I think these are the issues that are going to be discussed. I know they have different sessions. They have a session on manufacturing, they have a session on resource mobilization, and a session on oil and gas and so on and so forth. For us, these are the key areas, pillars of our economy. How do we ensure that we have transformation in each of these sectors such that their contribution to GDP is more through value addition and more meaningful, so that it can create the jobs we want. So in these discussions, and there are a lot of international experts here, there are best practices that are going to be looked at, there are issues to be discussed around this, there are policymakers and then operators as well, industrialists and so on and so forth. And I believe with all the ideas coming together, we should be able to chart the course of transformation, which is very key and critical.
In order to attract more women into the power sector, the Millennium Development Authority has launched the first ever Ghana Power Compact Internship and Mentorship Program for women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The pilot project will see 50 female students from 5 universities go through a 2-month internship in the power and energy sectors. This project is expected to run till 2021, after which over 300 females will be trained and mentored. Fauziatu Adam was at the launch and has come through with this report.
Beneficiary schools include Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Accra Technical University, Koforidua Technical University, Kumasi Technical University, and Akwetia Technical Institute. The implementing entities include Electricity Company of Ghana Limited, Ghana Standards Authority, and Energy Commission. Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Otiko Afisa Jaba, who launched the Project Tax MIDA to include the disabled and girls from the northern part of the country in the pilot project.
And so, with regards to that, I'm not sure that I see anybody here who is disabled. Do we have a disabled person here amongst the 50 girls? Then that is something that you need to rectify, because people who are disabled can also learn science, maths, engineering, and technology. We cannot afford to leave anybody out. I also noticed from the list of schools, Accra Technical University, Akwetia Technical Institution, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Koforidua Technical University, Kumasi Technical University, UMAT. Where are the Northerners? Where are the people from the Upper East? Where are the people from the Upper West and from the Broahafo? Why are they left out from this? All the institutions that have been invited here are institutions in the South. There are girls, brilliant, in the other parts of Ghana. And so, CEO, I would want you to readdress this immediately. This is an order from the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Because we cannot afford to leave anybody out. Location is just geography.
On his part, Chief Executive Officer of MIDA, Martin Eson Benjamin, encouraged selected young girls to take advantage of the opportunity to bring change in their societies.
Let me say that this is an opportunity which will define the future of some of you. If you apply yourself well, you will be spotted. Obviously, if you go to any company and you do what is right, and you are serious-minded, and you support management, and you learn the ropes quickly, somebody will support you. It's normal. It happens all the time. But if you don't light your light, but you decide that you have a lamp and you go to put it under a bushel, nobody will see you. So let your light shine wherever you go, so that they can see your good works and compensate you for the good works you do.
For this initiative, a selected intern will receive an amount of 550 Ghana cedis per month, excluding their medical bills.
And that's business on the news tonight. Many thanks for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Have a good evening.
LPG Operators Association is calling on government to institute safety measures in regulating its activities ahead of pushing them completely out of business. This follows a proposal for the implementation of the cylinder recirculation module to cut down explosions related to LPG. The implementation of the CRM was proposed by the National Petroleum Authority to ensure that LPG filling points are sited out of densely populated areas and commercial centers. But the operators say the policy is an already planned agenda by the NPA. There's more in the following report.
At a cabinet meeting on October 12, 2017, President Akufo-Addo, on the advice of cabinet, directed that the cylinder recirculation model of liquefied petroleum gas distribution be implemented. This model means that LPG bottling plants will be sited far away from congested commercial and population centers and will procure, brand, maintain and fill empty cylinders to be distributed to consumers and households through retail outlets. This conversation came up after the atomic gas explosion that left 7 dead and over 100 injured. But according to the Ghana LPG Operators Association, almost all the major gas explosions recorded in the country occurred at the discharging point and not when filling cylinders at the stations. Hence, the proposal is misdirected. They believe the policy is an already planned agenda by the NPA.
Global LPG Partnership have been behind lobbying policymakers since 2011. And previous governments have tried to do CRM and they've dropped it because of some of the issues we've raised. Right? Somehow it's this government that says they want to do it. And like I said, it was a planned agenda. So look at the sequence of events. Atomic happens on 7th October, Saturday. On 8th October, even before government has set up an investigative committee, internal memos in the NPA are being written to their board of directors to implement CRM. 12 October, 5 days after Atomic, presidential cabinet meeting, presidential directive. In the 5 days, what research was done? What facts were gathered? And you've seen that June 11th, a very senior official of the NPA goes to a public event and makes a public statement, Madam Estanku, that they still have not received the fire incident reports from fire service. So, you haven't done your research. You haven't looked at the facts. You haven't looked at the evidence. And you are rushing with the policy. That is our issue.
The LPG operators say they are not against government setting up bottling plants, but they don't want to be forced to be distributors or sale agents.
Go ahead and license your bottling plants. We can't stop you. It's business. Leave us alone to do our business. Let's compete. And you as a customer will make a decision. Whether you want to stick with your existing arrangement of carrying your own cylinder and going to a station to refill, or to go and pick an already sold cylinder. That is a choice that has been left to you as a customer. When in Ghana, there was Gasam, Danko taken, isn't it? Did somebody force existing Gasam distributors to be agents of Dangote? Dangote has built its channels. It's business. So our position is simple. Go ahead and license your bottling plants. We can't stop you. But you cannot force us to be sales agents or distributors of these bottling plants, whichever way you call it.
They are, however, questioning what they describe as the rush in implementing the CRM when the report of the cause of the explosion at the Madina Atomic Gas Station is yet to be released.
We're taking a break to bring you showbiz, but still ahead, government defers questions about timelines for completion of One District, One Factory initiative to private sector players expected to deliver. Government says it is unable to tell exactly when any of the One District, One Factory projects will be completed. Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen explains this is because the project is being led by private sector players who should rather give the timelines for completion. Responding to questions on the floor of Parliament, Mr. Kyerematen said 700 proposals have been received so far for the construction of various factories, of which 256 are being considered for financial support. He said a 2.5 billion cedis facility has been set up for those with good proposals to benefit from.
2018 budget, an appropriation was made, and this was approved by this August House for an amount of 400 million Ghana cedis to support the implementation of this project. So based on the releases that come from the Ministry of Finance, as and when we are able to obtain these releases, we will provide support accordingly for these projects. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, in addition to that, government, working through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, has been able to mobilize over 2.5 million Ghana cedis, billion Ghana cedis, from participating financial institutions that is available to be accessed on a case-by-case basis for companies that qualify. So they earmarked an amount of 2.5 billion cedis from about 5 participating financial institutions for those who would qualify and go through the process of screening from these banks. As I've indicated in my responses to the 3 questions, this is a private sector-led initiative. The pace of implementation of each project is squarely in the hands of each business promoter. They dictate the pace of implementation. Government has already provided the incentive framework, the support, and each of these companies, business promoters, are responding based on their own capacity to be able to provide the requirements that should come from the private sector. And that's why I said that if you want exact details, there are various levels of implementation. And I think that I should not arrogate to myself the power to determine at what point and at what time each of these companies are going to finalize the establishment of this program.
But the minority says this is an indication government is clueless. Keta MP Richard Kwashiga, whose question triggered the summoning of the minister, says the program has no firm footing.
What was most disappointing too is that till now, we don't, from the minister's responses to some other questions, we don't have a single factory established under the 1D, 1F program. And that for me is very disappointing. You know, and clearly it appears that for all this while, the ministry has not been really doing anything significant as far as this whole project of 1D, 1F is concerned. And again, for the minister to say he cannot speak to timelines is also worrying. And again, the minister did indicate that the project is under his ministry. But clearly, if you check the secretariat of the 1D, 1F program, if you check their website, they made reference to local government ministry instead of the trade ministry as we all expected. That means that there's a whole gamut of confusion surrounding this whole concept of 1D, 1F program that this government had intended to implement. And I think that this is emanating from the fact that it is originally not their idea.
Government says it will soon approve a tertiary education policy and a regulator to help ensure technical universities stick to their mandates and improve upon accountability. The House is debating amendments to the Technical University Amendment Bill to upgrade the Cape Coast and Tamale Polytechnics into universities. Minority Leader Harry Nadritu is concerned about the lack of accountability at various public universities.
Minister and the Auditor General in particular must take interest in the accounts of the investors. When they sell admission forms, they make enormous financial amounts of money. Who do they account to for use of that money? The fees and charges that they take together, because, Mr. Speaker, is one of complementarity and not supplementarity. They expect central government to offload some burden. We should understand taking responsibility for that burden vis-a-vis their financial muscle against what they demand from students and parents to pay. Today, the public universities are charging as if they are also private universities. Let them be reminded that the government of Ghana still takes responsibility for tuition, and therefore they cannot be offsetting that onto ordinary poor parents and students. But the Auditor General must take particular interest in getting the audited accounts of all the universities so that we can go into it. And Minister, you'll be surprised what savings the state will be able to do and what other obligations. So in principle, Mr. Speaker, we support these amendments. We will need a roadmap for WA and Bolga Polytechnic to be upgraded. And Mr. Speaker, our universities need to rethink and redefine What is it that established them with their mandate and mission against responding to the needs of industry and commerce? Today, that is what they are doing. You are told that tomorrow a marketing course is introduced here, tomorrow another HR course is introduced here. And Mr. Speaker, a need test. What is our human resource needs as a country? Have we defined it? We need to know within the next 5-10 years, how many medical doctors do we need? How many engineers do we need? How many persons do we need with IT background? It is not defined. We are just training. We cannot continue to train for training purposes, and we cannot continue to train simply because we have universities. It must be tied to our national objectives, our development objectives, and tied to the principles of the Constitution.
Education Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh says they are working to resolve the concerns with a new policy.
Cabinet has mandated my good self to come up with the ministry with a technical tertiary education policy. And in the tertiary education policy, we should ensure that the universities stay to their core mandates. Before we can do that, Mr. Speaker, we have to create a regulator, of which we have two, the National Accreditation Board and the National Council for Tertiary Education, form a unified regulator, will give the necessary powers to make sure that what the minority leader spoke about, accountability, that the universities are accountable to the missions for which they were set up. As of now, we don't have clear guidance on that issue. So I hope that when the tertiary education reform policy eventually gets here, Parliament will contribute to that debate and enrich that document for the purposes of helping develop our economic well-being in this country. Mr. Speaker, the roadmap.
The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Shraj is criticizing politicians for paying lip service in the fight against corruption. Deputy Commissioner of Shraj, Richard Quaiting, in his keynote address at the launch of the Metogu Anti-Corruption Report by Pemplus Bites Ghana, stressed that politicians only campaign with promises of ending corruption just to score political points. Joining us is Charity Emehil Bartels, was at the launch of the report and brings us details.
The report revealed that 7 out of every 10 Ghanaians think that government is displaying a lukewarm attitude in adopting multi-strategy approach in fighting corruption. The Deputy Chair of the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj, Richard Quaiting, expressed worry at the findings of a Metogu Anti-Corruption Report, saying the habit of politicians making promises without clear plans of executing those promises has contributed to the high perception of corruption.
Ghana has earned for itself the unenviable record of often making promises and raising high expectations and hopes, with little or no serious commitment to carry them out. And when we have been pushed to carry out some of these promises, they have turned out to be phantom projects or at best white-headed funds, mainly to score political marks and nothing more. No commitment whatsoever to see them through.
The report also revealed that 69% of its 792 respondents interviewed felt that government's efforts in fighting corruption are either unsatisfactory or average. Mr. Quaiting said Ghanaians are becoming more aware of a severe socio-economic impact of corruption on the development of a country, hence are no longer settling for mere promises.
He also reminded that people expect more from their leaders and institutions, and they can no longer be wowed with promises after promises, no matter how well-intentioned they may appear to be. If nothing at all, the last general election should send a clear signal that the average Ghanaian is becoming wiser and wiser and wants to see results and not promises of it.
Executive Director of PEMPLAS BITE, initiators of a Metogu anti-corruption report, Kwame Ahiabenu, called for dispassionate discussions on the findings of the report devoid of politics.
Yes, politics matters, but let's talk about the reality. The reality is that when the government or the party was looking for power, they gave promises. We can't argue about that. Those promises were documented. All we are doing is that, are you performing on that? We at PEMPLAS BITE cannot do so. We have to go to the citizens. And so we are reflecting the viewpoint of the citizens. Now, I think the ruling government, the MPP, will be very happy because we are giving them feedback that they can work on.
Other institutions, including IOCO, CSOs, and other anti-corruption groups, are of the view that the Metogu project will provide a platform that will encourage Ghanaians to keep up the pressure on both elected and public officials to work hard towards a zero-corruption environment in Ghana. Charity Emihel Batel's report for Joy News.
Also, the new Ashanti Regional Police Commander is promising intensified and increased police presence in an effort to clamp down on criminals. DCOP Kwesi Mensah Duku says his administration will ruthlessly deal with land guards and rival terror gangs in the region. He addressed his maiden news conference today to spell out his vision and plans after taking over from DCOP Ken Yeboah in a recent reassignment. DCOP Duku warns rioters who attack police stations will be dealt with in an effort to combat terror activities.
It is my vision to make the region very peaceful, for people to go about their duties, to go about their homes without any fear or intimidation. To be able to achieve this, it is my intention to consolidate on the gains and successes of my predecessors by adopting an increased patrols and stakeholders engagement with a view to win the confidence of the good people of Ashanti. Langarism, I'm told, is also raising its ugly head in the Ashanti region. We are going to tackle that. I've also been told about robber gang attacks, and we are going to meet those gangs squarely.
DCOP Duku is also calling on citizens to volunteer information to help police maintain law and order.
I'd like also to take this opportunity to appeal to the general public also to give us information, of course, credible one, on criminals to enable the command act decisively to improve the relative peace being enjoyed. Most often than not, people have been complaining that when information is released to the police, then they go around mentioning those who gave the information to the police. So people are not willing to give information to the police. Please, if you want to give information to us, you should go to the region, to the commanders. We have the district commanders there. The regional command is also there. My 2IC is there. The crime officer is there. I'm there. If you have any information for police, please feel free and come to us and release the information to us, rather than releasing the information to the junior officers.
Locals in the Brahaf regional town of New Longoro are hailing the positive impact of government's ban on small-scale mining on fish catch in the Black Volta. While the ban is impacting fishing, a section of the town is also worried about the crashing of the local economy. A mass exodus of people since the ban came into force is taking a toll on local businesses. Joy News' Justice Bedu reports.
September 2016, at the peak of the country's fight against illegal mining, men hard at work, dredging into the Pra River, one of the country's major river bodies. Fast forward May 2018, 1 year after a government cracked down on the menace. Most of the miners are gone, but a stark reminder of the destruction that used to happen. This is the Black Volta. The water looks clearer now, at least according to fishermen who have worked here for decades. New Longoro was once a small town where people only went on fishing and farming. Fish catch, they say, is picking up slowly.
I can see I say, Omoja Ibai, I say, Bimoja, or Matisokakra, or Matisokakra. Sene first in air Kosopano, this time another phone.
The gold rush created a boom in this town which attracted miners from far and near who came to fuel local businesses like this eatery here. But as the Galamsey ban came into force, many have been forced out, and that has taken a bad tumble on buying and selling.
Like Bangku, we could prepare over 150 balls, especially on Sundays. They will clear everything: rice, jollof, mutuo, fufu, and then fried rice. Because of that, now we have, if you like, most of them we have stopped. And in order to ensure continuity of the business, we have to at least let go some of our staff.
The story from New Longoro, like many Galamsey communities, show that yes, people are happy that water bodies are recovering, but also worry that worsening economic conditions due to the lack of alternative jobs may well be the new Galamsey they would have to deal with. Justice Bedu, Joy News, New Longoro.
And in the headlines on Joy News Prime, body of medical doctor who lost her life under tragic circumstances in Monday night's downpour retrieved almost 2 days after she was swept away by flood waters. It brings to at least 8 the number of deaths recorded so far in the Greater Accra region. One of 2 persons being held for the murder of the late J.B. Danko Edu, the Member of Parliament for Abuakwa North, is threatening to mention the names of persons in the governing New Patriotic Party. He has contracted him to commit the crime. In business, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industries urges private sector to reposition its business plans to complement the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda of government. And my name is Israelite. Thank you very much for watching too. Have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.